Just leave me for somebody else. Enjoy yourself, enjoy yourself.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. My name is Zoey, and in today's episode of Faith Unfiltered, we are going to be discussing the unfortunate downfall of political conversations. This is a topic that I've wanted to touch on for months, and what better way to kick off the series than with a bold bang. So without further ado, let's begin. If there's one thing that really irks me besides progressive Christianity, it would probably be political drama. I've especially noticed that in the last few years, the world is getting worse and worse. Tension is rising between the left and the right, and the media is manipulating everyone. Every so often, I hear about some bad situation where one side is debunking statements while the other side is leaving comments disagreeing and opposing it. From personal experience and observation, I have noticed that the majority of difficult conversations are more likely to be a result of the left. There is unfortunately a lot of hypocrisy and hate there, to the point where people are being cut off by their friends and family members for their opinions. However, on the other side of this, there are those on the right who can come across as arrogant and smug, and I think at times Republicans and Conservatives ought to be more patient and understanding of the other person's point of views, even if they do think that the take is wrong. But I think where both sides clash is the fact that Liberals and Democrats will argue that it is a matter of morals and human rights, which I absolutely respect. The only problem is we can't even agree on what those human rights entail. For example, abortion. Many argue that opposing this is a form of controlling women in what they can and can't do with their bodies. On the contrary, pro-lifers believe that supporting abortion is supporting the murder of the unborn. And again, that is a debate in itself. Pro-choicers don't believe it's a baby from the moment of conception, whereas pro-lifers do. So there are all these factors that need to be considered when we look at the way that the world is going. Now, scouring online for fair examples of this has honestly been hard. I can easily find a lot of right-leaning content creators critiquing and calling out the left for hypocrisy and hate speech all over Instagram, but if I go and try to do the same for the right, there is a lack of reels. If I think about it, I imagine the method of said hate and disrespect is different and more linked to specific things like parents' reactions to people coming out as part of the rainbow community. Because you can more easily find stories of those who grew up in religious households and were kicked out and disowned and or were taken to conversion therapy, for example. But those kinds of stories are more likely shared across the comment sections of related skits and YouTube videos. There is, however, one place where the ugly sides of both the right and the left do show up, and that is on Threads. Now, Threads is essentially an extension of Instagram, if I'm not mistaken. It's sort of like X/Twitter meets a comment section. But let me just say that I do not recommend getting it. It is an incredibly toxic place, and I honestly don't even know why I have it, because I don't even use it, and quite frankly haven't looked through the app in ages. However, I do want to share with you guys an example of where we can either come together as a society when presented the opportunity, or tear each other apart. I came across this one post that said for liberals to say something kind about conservatives and vice versa, and the responses are interesting. There is a mixture of compliments, but sadly also some backlash. I do agree though with those who are providing feedback and observations towards both parties, because yes, the left is more emotionally charged and I do think it clouds the way they respond to criticism, but the right lacks the understanding and empathy in where they are coming from. At the end of the day, people on both sides are just fighting for what they believe is right, but they're going about it the wrong way. So with that said, I actually want to talk about how we as Christians should go about expressing our beliefs to those of different values. Because there is without a doubt people who claim to be of the same faith and yet are extremely disrespectful or judgmental towards others when debating. And it is unfortunately why so many people have church hurt. Of course, this doesn't account for all kinds of religious trauma, but for this discussion we are going to be focusing on the verbal side of things. So, how exactly should we as Christians have debates or political conversations with others? Well, let's take a look and see what the Bible has to say. Titus 3 verses 9 to 11. Do not get involved in foolish discussions about spiritual pedigrees or in quarrels and fights about obedience to Jewish laws. These things are useless and a waste of time. If people are causing divisions among you, give a first and second warning. After that, have nothing more to do with them, for people like that have turned away from the truth and their own sins condemn them. Now, this passage I'd say is more surrounding debates such as whether or not Christians should eat pork, for example, or even maybe more controversial ones like should Christians celebrate Halloween or should they even celebrate Christmas, because when those times come around it can get pretty iffy. But the passage does also talk about giving a first and second warning before leaving people alone. I believe this part is about the genuine calling out of sins and then those in sin not wanting to listen. And we can apply this to our present day. Not everyone is going to listen to what we have to say, whether fact, opinion, or the truth. If you are having a discussion about beliefs of what is right and wrong, don't keep pushing if things are going around in circles, because it is ultimately a waste of time if you try to communicate with someone who doesn't want a conversation. 1 Peter 3 verses 9. Don't repay evil for evil, don't retaliate with insults when people insult you. Instead, pay them back with a blessing. That is what God has called you to do, and He will grant you His blessing. Pretty self-explanatory. Don't insult people back if they call you names. Be the bigger person, just wish them a good day, or even just pray for them. 1 Peter 3 verses 15 to 16. And if someone asks about your hope as a believer, always be ready to explain it, but do this in a gentle and respectful way. Keep your conscience clear. Then, if people speak against you, they will be ashamed when they see what a good life you live because you belong to Christ. Also fairly self-explanatory. Be prepared to explain yourself if someone asks about your belief or opinion, but as it says in the passage, do it in a gentle and respectful way. Now, I wanted to include a few verses from Proverbs 18 just because I thought it was kind of funny, but it's honestly true the way the world is going now. So, verses 1, 2, and 13. Unfriendly people care only about themselves. They lash out at common sense. Fools have no interest in understanding, they only want to air their own opinions. Spouting off before listening to the facts is both shameful and foolish. And now, Matthew 7 verses 1 to 5. This is honestly one of the most taken out of context passages I have ever seen, used everywhere. A lot of people love to spew it, especially progressive Christians, which kind of ticks me off. But lucky for you, I will actually be explaining it. So here we go. Do not judge others and you will not be judged, for you will be treated as you treat others. The standard you use in judging is the standard by which you will be judged. And why worry about a speck in your friend's eye when you have a log in your own? How can you think of saying to your friend, let me help you get rid of that speck in your eye, when you can't see past the log in your own eye? Hypocrite! First, get rid of the log in your own eye, then you'll see well enough to deal with the speck in your friend's eye. And there you have it. It doesn't say don't judge at all, it says don't be a hypocrite. And the fact is, the Bible does command us to judge righteously, which means calling out sin and telling the truth even when it hurts. What matters is you do it kindly and respectfully, and just make sure you aren't sinning either when you are quote-unquote judging people. Honestly though, people make judgments every day, but unfortunately, a lot of people like to take that one quote out of the Bible without knowing its full context. Anyway, I hope this video has been insightful. Let's all promise ourselves to be open to others' opinions and ideas, and if we have any disagreements, let's be kind when sharing our reasons why. Ask questions about the other person's views, because I guarantee that even if they do or don't support something, it might not be a matter of all or nothing. They may very well have criticisms and slight alterations towards their beliefs. With that said, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know in the comments below, and if there are any topics that you would like to see me explore in the future, there will be a Google form in the description where you can anonymously submit any queries you have. Until next time, God bless, guys.
Just leave me for somebody else. Enjoy yourself, enjoy yourself. Just leave me for somebody else.